Right, we're just coming up to 11 o'clock. I'm just going to give a couple more minutes because we've still got quite a few people who registered who haven't as yet appeared.
People now normally wanted to see it recorded. That's maybe easiest part. How much minutes more or less will, like, we have 40 minutes, right?
As time you need to take, Miguel. The full event has lasted an hour, but we've say it's very much up to you. If it lasts less, you know, if you've got 30 minutes, that's fine. We can build around that.
Just to be recorded and people then can use it. It's flexible. It's not a problem. If of course if they can be here, they can have questions, and it's easy.
Yes, absolutely.
If not, it's good anyway.
I'm going to make a start actually. I think because it is now 11. It's just gone 11, in fact. So yes, good morning to everybody. Welcome to our fifth event for Net Zero Week 2021, which is a brand new event. We're very pleased to be partnering with this event. We think it's very important, obviously very topical and a critically important subject, net zero. We're hosting a number of events this week. As I say, this is the fifth of 8 events. Please keep an eye out on the ESTA website for our own events, or indeed the Net Zero Week events. More generally, the Net Zero Week website for their events at other partners. But yes, so I'm Mervyn Pilley. I'm the director of ESTA, Energy Services and Technology Association. We're an energy efficiency solution provider, trade body. Our members provide trade solutions for commercial, non-domestic organisations across the UK and indeed globally. We've been going for about 35 years. Bit of housekeeping. Can you please use the chat box for Q&A? We're going to be doing the Q&A at the end of the session today. So if you just slot down your questions, or alternatively put them in at the end, and we'll deal with Q&A at the end. And one last important piece is that this event will be in fact recorded and will be available on demand from the Net Zero Week website once this session's finished. So yes, as Miguel said earlier, for people who haven't managed to make it today, they will be able to see the session. So that will get the message out to hopefully to a wider audience. Right, without further ado, I'm going to now make Miguel Mateus the host for today. He's presenting our Vice Chair of our Energy Service Contracting Group. And I'm sure he'll make perhaps just explain a little bit more about his role and who he does, what he does and his company. Miguel, you should be the host. You should be able to share your screen.
Thank you. Okay. Let me see if I can share the screen. So continue.
Okay. There we are. Yeah, we can see it. Just need to do full. That's it. We're there. Okay. So over to you, Miguel. I'll rejoin at the end.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mervyn. Welcome everybody. And well, this is like a challenging session because trends are always changing. In a way, that's the concept of the trends. But we'll try today is to find out what could be like the biggest kind of trends that can affect our net zero in our societies going forward in the energy sector. Well, I'm Miguel Matias, so I'm Vice Chair of the Energy Services Contracting Group of ESTA, like Mervyn told. I have more than 25 years of experience in energy, in different sectors of energy, both as utility, also oil and gas, also in consulting as Deloitte Consulting Senior Manager for energy. And I also have started my own group called Self Energy that also has a presence in UK, so based from London, and also in Iberia, Portugal, Spain, and projects in Africa and Brazil and Middle East. So not just going a little bit further, I would be uh, start challenging yourselves and challenge what are these macro trends that we can find in energy. So from most of uh, the companies and the consulting and also uh, from the academy. So you will find these 3Ds as like something that everybody agrees that are the main trends around what's happening in energy. So decentralized, decarbonized, and digitized world. That's what the world that we're gonna find. So in fact, when we right now are seeing some of the decisions and some of the laws or regulations, we will see that they are somehow in one of these 3Ds. So, and the current energy system that coming from like a much more streamlined and fossil fuels kind of base now is completely being um, shifted to a decarbonized or in transition to a decarbonized world. Even the grid that we're going to be managing, the electricity grid, will have these three components on top. So these three components are also, for instance, and the one thing you can find is in all the plans right now, the European Union Resilience Program for reconstruction after COVID, it's based in specifically in two of these, which is the energy transition, the decarbonization, and the digitalization of the businesses. And so this in all these areas is something to be done. And of course, there's also challenges for the current operators. So that's what we try now to understand and see how the things are moving and where can we find some opportunities on these challenging times. So one thing that I brought you, and of course there was some evolutions on this 10-point plan for the Green Industrial Revolution that was published in the UK government. But in fact, it will be interesting to find out in these components, in these 10 points, can we find the 3Ds? Can we find the digitalization, the decarbonization, and the decentralization? In fact, I will say that it seems when you talk about, for instance, offshore wind or green hydrogen, you are talking about the decentralization, but mostly potentially depends on how you look at it. You may still think about like central operations and not completely decentralized kind of generation or models. Or the same with nuclear power. When you include nuclear power in this 10 point, is because of course is decarbonization, but is also in a way is also about staying central and not decentralized as the other ones. So we have this mixed. I don't think it's potentially totally captured in this 10-point plan. Of course, it is not meant to be, but if you talk about greener buildings, then you are talking decentralized and how you manage the decentralized solutions. Carbon capture, again, you are looking to more centralized solutions, but of course on decarbonization. So yeah, it's in all there with the different touch. But the main thing is, of course, these trends, you can see them operate in all areas of the businesses that are right now being developed in Europe and in UK and in the world, I'll say. And if you see the challenge that the energy mix of energy as the energy mix as in UK, you can see that what was meant to be mostly coal, it's almost over. In fact, it's really, we can say that it's over the coal era in terms of energy production in UK. It still have a very important gas baseline, but what is really increasing is the renewable component of that. And if we saw it during COVID, we saw it that we mostly use renewables during COVID, so much more than this 37.4 in the last 3 months of that we saw there. So the things that we have to think about is also why are we talking about in the plan, for instance, we have not too much talked about solar. It was just offshore wind. Why not solar was not as present, decentralized? Why CCS and not storage for renewable energy? Because in fact, you can identify the same kind of trends. Why nuclear and not renewable energy communities like Germany or Portugal are doing? So I think we should try to inquire even for these policies, and we try to say, look, with what we know, is it the best thing we can do, or there is something else we can do? And the thing is, if we have to increase electric vehicles, if we have to replace our boilers by heat pumps, how can we do it without a grid 2.0, another electricity grid? So this is the kind of questions that we should think about, and say that, in fact, the decarbonization will not come completely without the other two Gs, about the digitalization and decentralization. So if you just decarbonize by using nuclear, you will not be on a more sustainable solution. And you will not be covering, because you're going to have to increase a lot of nuclear to cover all the EVs and heat pumps you're going to need. And no one wants more nuclear nearby. So we have to really compare what are the options right now. And like the UK government, in fact, has told them, look, it's not possible to install nuclear power plants at 9 cents fixed price, because with solar, for instance, in Portugal and Spain, you can produce solar by 2 cents in a half or 3 cents by kilowatt hour. So it's by what peak, sorry, and it's something it will become even cheaper. So why are we going to be investing so much in nuclear and not in storage, for instance, to make the renewables less intermittent? So yeah, we should still keep making the questions and potentially trying to make our policy makers a little bit more aware that what are the trends, and that some others are doing different. I don't know if it's better or not, but at least we should evaluate what are the options. So this is like the kind of until the end of 2019, so before COVID, UK in any way was moving on the right direction. All the new commitments were going in the same direction. The only thing is, maybe the decentralization and digitalization components were not so heavy defined as they are in other countries that are doing the same effort. So also, in terms of what's happening now is that the problem is that customers are starting to have a big confusion in their minds. So there's so many options for them to decide from, and so in a way you can find out that that options are less prepared than others. But the main thing is, it's not just about the different technologies, it's also about the different kind of, how can you compare the service levels, how can you make the compliance of the sources of the origin sources of the renewable energy, what are the reporting you need, what are the battery storage you need. So is really kind of frustration for customers, to mainly the B2B customers. Residential, it's there's good comparison right now, even on the web, very digital, good portals that you can compare because it's easy. But when you go to B2B, then the comparison is much more difficult. And that's what we are finding out, is that the customer are having this problem of different choices that they have to go for. But the supplier are also having their own trouble, because they are starting to have a lot number of complaints, because clients are more aware of their own rights and their own technologies definitions. They are really being penalized by Ofgem, by some kind of mistakes they do in the billing, by the way they do the service. And so uh, right now the customers, the suppliers are also having a huge competition. And now, for instance, during these last weeks, also the markets were really challenging, because you can do, like, if you buy electricity in the market, you can be completely reliant on how the market will go. And if the market goes down, you can do a lot of money, but if it goes up, you can lose a lot of money and you go bankrupt. And so there's a lot of companies, even in UK, that failed because they didn't make the right contractual and the right approach to the to their own kind of booking. So what I would like to understand as well is, so the supplier is having this problem as well. The brokers. So brokers is a very interesting reality in UK, and the brokers are focusing in trying to get the best tariffs on the market. But some of them, they are not fearing the future, so they are a little bit opportunistic on what they have, and they go out, and the service level is not so much time the best thing you can get. So there's not big regulations on that, which means that sometimes the service and the quality are not there. So again, there's increasing competition, and they are feeling what like even the digitalization will do for them. So the brokers are having this problem as well. But also the industry as a whole, we have to compare, and we have to balance this energy affordability, energy security of supply, and also the environmental stability and the environmental support that you can give. So you will have to balance all these at the same time. And so the thing is, how can you do it? So we look into that trends, look into these challenges. What are the opportunities? What are the challenges that we can see? One solution that's coming, and is like I will not say it is yet a trend, but we see it coming because it comes from other industries as well, is what we call it the energy as a service. So instead of looking to like selling electricity, no, what you're looking is trying to have all the kind of needs for energy, charging your car, your cooling in the office, your heating for your factory, or even your lighting. So, and transform it into a service provider in one contract, and potentially with even a monthly cost. And you can do that because if you can do it decentralized generation, you can control the costs mostly, because it's making your solutions much more affordable at the end. You can have more security of supply. You can keep your lights on at least for a percentage, and if you have the battery storage there to complement what you can charge. And so, in fact, you are trying to solve the different parts of the equation with this model. The customer will see their pricing much easily understood. The supplier will be much easy and to operate, because they will be more protected from grid heavy transformations and heavy price unbalancing. And also, of course, the industry problem is addressed. So what we need, what the trend we see is like these kind of new companies will become like the energy operators, and these on-site generation and community energy schemes will complement the transmission and distribution lines. So it's not, so this grid 2.0 will not be more farms, more solar farms or more wind farms. No, will be the grid more combined as a energy internet, as a grid like the internet as growing with different parts being developed at the same time on the decentralized model. And with that, you can balance that supply. So, and if you go back and you see a lot of other industries, like the telecom industry or the software, have come like a long way to transform themselves into a as a service model. So we saw the fixed phone transformed into a mobile as a, and like a cell phone, and the same thing with the software as a service that we normally use with the even then with media like Netflix or other things that you do it as a service, and not really on a different model. Now it's time for the centralized industry of energy can also become as a service because and you can do that because you have the technology now to do it. It was not possible before because you didn't have the battery storage, you didn't have the renewable energy as cheap as it is or applied, or that can be applied in different parts of the equation as it is, even in the mobility. And so that problem that we saw, that problem was also bringing a lot of intermediaries taking care of the value of the customer. And the main thing is the customer were looking to the bill being rising because they have to pay for a lot of intermediaries in their bill. Right now, with this kind of approach, you can streamline this kind of solutions. And in fact, you can transform and get more value from everything that you had before, because you will have the charging points at your office, you will have your own solar energy, you will have energy efficiency integrated in your program. And so all of these will be on your own contract and with one provider and potentially a monthly cost. That doesn't have to be from the beginning, but the trend is like you have it in telecoms, you will buy also kilowatts hour at a monthly cost in energy. So this is what we are seeing. And in terms of model, like I was telling, it is not anymore like a very streamlined and a very linear kind of approach. It's much more on a kind of a kind of a net. Um, Someone call it the energy internet, and that is like where everybody is connected, and you will connect, of course, the larger suppliers, but you will also connect your neighborhood. You also connect your consumers on different parts of the equation. So in summary, and that is, of course, for discussion, and that is not as to be like the only thing, but we'll see that the energy transition, and I would call it modern transition, there's an energy disruption in moving, because you are changing completely. Is the same thing when we change from the fixed phone for the mobile phone. We are in the same kind of pace of transition or disruption. So the business models that we'll have by having a battery storage in our house or in our businesses is completely different. And so we have to think that is really will drive the change. And these mega trends of decarbonization, decentralization, and digitalization should be on top of our own priorities as a businesses in the future, or as policymakers, or as regulators, or as just consumers. So we will look to this as part of our lives in the future. It will be a much more complex digital and agile technology-driven world, but that will drive new opportunities as well. So it will be more difficult because you can't manage all these variables just on your own. You're going to need artificial intelligence, you're going to need algorithms, but at the same time, you can change. It will be much more agile, and you can prevent better the incidents that we have, for instance, like in Germany right now. or even floods we had in UK, not so far away. And so if you have this kind of models that you can prevent and you can apply that to the energy models, you will try to at least minimize and adapt to a world that is much more dangerous in these climate change extreme events. At the same time, you can combine knowledge in different domains, and having a diversified portfolio, and so instead of just like producing wind turbines, you may have to think how that wind turbines can, for instance, have solar panels included in their pole, and have a battery storage connected to that, in order for that wind can be used much more wisely during with the grid, even on the demand response events, trying to sell to the grid when the grid needs more, and store it when the grid doesn't need as much. And so we have to adapt what we have and make it much more knowledgeable and much more intelligent how we use the different resources we have with us. Also, we have to think that this is a big opportunity for newcomers, because the old utilities, I'm calling the old utilities, will have like a lot of assets that they will have to use still. Not just thinking on the fossil fuels like the gas pipelines, or even other fossil fuel related projects, but also in the renewable energy, and also in the grids. They are connected to a more streamlined kind of models, and so sometimes we need to reinvent the models, the business models, and sometimes maybe it will be difficult to do that in a very big companies where you have that kind of models in all the procedures, in all their own culture. And so potentially, like smaller companies will be more agile to integrate these digital and decentralized models. On the other hand, we are seeing very interesting companies from the old utilities coming over, and not just buying startups or partnering with startups to develop new models, but also like starting themselves new companies to reinvent how they provide this business to the people. Also, new technologies like green hydrogen that will make mobility for more like long haul and heavy transportation, for instance, or even heavy industry that can decarbonize. It's also an opportunity for the traditional like oil and gas companies to transform themselves. So this is not just like a disruption for the electricity or utilities companies, is also for the oil and gas. It's a major, I would say, even a bigger challenge for them. So, but all of them are coming to the same space, and you'll see that in UK, Shell, and not traditional oil and gas, now is selling electricity, and they have charging points. Like ChargeMaster from BP is one of the leaders in the charging of electric cars. So you will see all of these old oil and gas, old utilities will battle then with like smaller companies, even as us, Optimize Self Energy, but also as Good Energy or OVO Energy, that are coming with new models and agile and like Flexitricity, and so you will be on a battlefield in a way. Sorry about that, but this will be like a wider, but at the same time much more specialized and much more complex. And you will have to have that agility. You have to be agile, and you have to know the technology and manage the knowledge to develop it. And so I normally also try to find partners, because you can't know all the thing, all what is happening. So that's another part of this world is much more interconnected. You have to define like ecosystems that you can work with, and try to transform what is a difficulty in a strength instead of a weakness. So yeah, this is just was was a brief understanding of what we have done so far. We have I have published like some time ago, 2019, even before COVID, we have published this energy as a service model that you can download from my LinkedIn page or from the Optimize website. It will be available. These number of slides are also available for you. So I'm more than happy if there is some questions. I'm more than happy to get it now, or then we can.
I'm going to, yeah, thank Miguel. I'm going to take over if that's all right. In terms of, at least in terms of the questions and discussion. If you want to leave that slide up for a minute, and then I'll just, yeah, we haven't got any questions in the Q&A box at the moment, or the chat box, but I'm going to play the host here, and I've got a few things I just want to discuss with you that might stimulate a bit of a debate, or at least might stimulate a few questions. One interesting thing I wanted to ask you, you've mentioned a few names there. You've mentioned obviously some of the oil and gas companies, the legacy companies you could call them. I'm interested, do you think that the companies like, for example, Amazon, Google, and Microsoft might suddenly find themselves becoming energy companies, or at least not energy as in, you know, energy companies? I mean, in theory, you would think that the disruption logic would come from them because they've got that sheer size and the ability to really make that disruption at scale. But do you think I'm on the mark there, or do you think
no, completely right. They can turn into that whenever they want, and that's the problem is saying when, and trying not, of course, to disrupt their own clients and their own partners. That's why I'm saying about building an ecosystem. One thing that Amazon, mainly Amazon, has been done great was that's what I call it, the Amazon Web Services. The AWS are really behind most of the energy companies that operate right now. Amazon themselves, they are one of the biggest corporate PPA kind of buyers, and they are one of the biggest producers of renewable energy in the world already, like Google data centers, for instance, the same. So they are like on the as a service model, on the digital part of digitalization part of the 3Ds. And I will assume that from all of them, of course, the one that could be more ready to do this because of their model is potentially even Amazon.
Right.
But the others will influence. They can have the artificial intelligence. If you think about Google Earth and the data science they have and the algorithm they have it behind it, you can see that that algorithms can be used for better management of the cities.
And do you think as well, and you're probably the right person to ask on that particular area, because of your obviously you have this international focus that sometimes in the UK we tend to get a little bit insular and we don't necessarily address the global issues. I mean, do you think, again, companies like Amazon who have the global side of things, would that make it easier to look at the global side for them rather than trying to I don't know. I mean, you mentioned startups and small startups.
Yeah, I think this will be, that's a very good question. So, but it's like I see it what you call it, local. It's going to be like local models that will be applied globally, because this energy community are renewable energy communities. So it's something you will definitely be on spot. Okay, so you can define a model, and then you can replicate it globally, and that in fact is what in fact we are doing with this energy as a service model. Because as soon as you have like solar panels on the roof, battery storage, EV chargers, and a fleet package for transition your fleet from diesel to EVs, then you have a full package that you can apply wherever you want. So it doesn't have to be with the same company. Then you have the regulations in each one, of course. Even the technologies can be different. In some cases can be wind, in some cases can be even biomass, or biogas. It depends on what you have as a basis. But the model, yes, the model can be replicated, and the companies can be then applying that globally, I'm sure. Yeah.
Okay. And one other quick question that you and I have had a discussion before after you put a similar presentation on for us a few months ago. I'm intrigued and interested in very much in the SME market. So the businesses that are not, you know, as you said, major energy users necessarily, but still as a group have got, obviously are using energy. Certainly some of the smaller manufacturing sectors, large building owners, property owners. And I'm intrigued as to whether this model might work effectively for them, perhaps linked back into the microgrid concept, and obviously producing. I think you and I had a discussion about a blockchain concept that might enable people to trade microgrid, their own SME-based supply. But I know, again, obviously in the UK, you've got the grid issue against the microgrid supply issue. Do you think this has got any relevance to the SME market in particular, this model?
No, totally. Yeah, this I think will approach the SMEs in this kind of access to a good tariffs in energy and good solutions in energy. The gap they have faced until now will be lower, will be lower, because they can have access to the same kind of models that just the big companies were supposed to have right now. And so they can compete at the same kind of energy cost, the same kind of technology, because they can have access to that kind of tariffs as the other ones has, you see. And so big will not be the only factor to be cheaper.
That's really interesting, because everyone talks about PPAs, and you know, you get this feeling that the SMEs, unless obviously you're aware that we've been trying to aggregate some SMEs into a buying group concept so that SMEs could buy at scale, which is proving quite challenging, quite hard, contractually difficult. But if you think that in theory the SMEs could have access to this market, your energy as a service model, that would release them from that need to aggregate their buying?
Because in a way, instead of going and buy to the same place where the big ones will buy, and of course they will always have a different bargaining power, what they will do is they will buy from each other. So they will come together with these kind of models of microgrid, and these blockchain trading platforms, where in fact you are not buying somewhere else, you are buying from your other SME and on a different profiling and in your community. And so if you can take like 60-70% of your energy by your neighbors, from your neighbors, you're going to be not discussing with the big utilities or the big solar farms. No, you're going to be discussing with your fellow SME, and then the discussion will be much easier, and everybody will come out with a better solution. What I'm saying is the type of these microgrids, how they operate, will be more like a community. It's like a neighborhood. It will be in industrial parks, or it can be really just like a neighborhood in a city. It can connect also with residential, so you can even get out the boundaries, and you can also see like the big companies needing to buy from the smaller companies nearby, because it will be for them better to do than going on a corporate PPA. So the corporate PPA will be there for buying from specific solar farms or wind farms, but as like a complement for the balance that they can't do it locally. So you will see ecosystems growing and more interconnection from small and big. And that's why I'm saying that the gap will reduce, because in fact, when doing that, they will also benefiting from the big one kind of needs.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's in fact, if you think about also models like the wireless models with the mobility, where you have antennas. In fact, with the storage capacity, it's like building antennas in your neighborhood, and you will then sell that energy at a much reduced price to the people that are on that neighborhood. And of course, that will reduce the need of new grid. Just for having an idea, and that's a very important thing to understand, is electricity right now is like 1/3 of the all energy we use. we have another another 1/3 is for mobility, is for like the cars, the trucks, the ships, the aviation, whatever. So it's another 1/3, and there's another 1/3 is for heating, and for heating in our houses, but also for the industry. And the heat is doing with gas mainly, natural gas or LPG, and also and the mobility is still doing with diesel, some with gas, but mostly with diesel. And so this is the two other thirds are the ones that we are in a big transition to decarbonize and to become electrical. The thing is, the grid we have is not going to be enough for holding all this. So it's like we had to build like 3 times the capacity and 3 times the grid we have now. It's not possible. So we have to build it in a different way. It's why we call it the grid 2.0. So it's going to be build it more regarding the really needs on demand response, completely adjusted to the demand of a community of ecosystem. And then you can really cover well the mobility and the heat parcels of the energy need. Because right now, if you try to just use the grid to have it all, you're gonna have security of supply issues. Nuclear power plants will not be enough, and so it's like this model is the only one that brings you some sustainability to this and affordability to this growing and this disruption.
Okay, Miguel, one last point. I'm going to and I've asked all of the people presenting this week, because it's a sort of my sort of open question to everybody, really, and it's sort of linked to everything you've said in terms of how this is all going to move forward. If you had a magic wand, and I do appreciate that your perhaps, well, the UK government is not your natural home government, but if you had a magic wand to wave at the government and say, you need to do this to help this solution, work quicker, what do you think would be one of the key policy drivers that government should be trying to implement to help your model, for example, progress faster? Is it tax incentivization in some way? Is it doing something, is there legislation needed? What would your sort of magic wand say in terms of the UK government? You could mention other governments, because I know some of the other governments you obviously work with in other countries may be doing things in a different way.
Yeah, I'm still, like, most of my business are based in UK, so I'm very well, and I'm not living there because right now, of course, these travel restrictions.
You can't get here. No, I understand that. Yeah.
But yeah, very aware of what's going on. And to be honest, I think I told that in the beginning of the presentation when I raised that 10-point.
You did. You mentioned the plan. Yes.
I really think the one part that is missing in most of the policies is the decentralization. So this is the missing link that I don't see how this can be decarbonized or digitalized if we don't talk about decentralization at the core of the policy. So you can build how many nuclear power plants or how many wind offshore farms you want, but you're not going to be solving the problem because the grid will not be enough, and the storage will not be enough. So you need to build resilience, like we saw right now in Germany and others. So it has to be local. You have to have a way to produce your own energy, your self-energy. That's why the vision, decentralization, and also the ESCO. So that's a little bit our model, the energy services, your energy center, your neighborhood has to be protected against these central major failures that may exist. And so decentralization should be, and it is now being on the heart of most policies in European Union, but not so much in UK still. And I would recommend, there are, of course, like Mayor of London, for instance, has been very, very pragmatic and very proactive, and they have built the London Power, for instance, or South Bank, for instance, has created the bank energy as a model for renewable energy community as well. So there are things moving, and you can do that, but it's not in the heart of the policy as I think it should be.
And perhaps the other critical thing is bringing everything together. I think this is, in fact, I'm doing a slot on collaboration a bit later on,
Okay.
And this is one of the areas that's incredibly positive, but equally frustrating. So all these different solutions out there, the different models, the different existing pilots, the different things that have been run or being run. But where is this intent to bring everything together into one place where these models can be quickly looked at and used rather than, I mean, my frustration with the government slightly at the moment is that everything is, and this is going to be a little bit of a plug for energy efficiency, which of course Esther is built around as a trade association. Everyone is focusing, or appears at the moment to be focusing on some very large, big expense, huge projects, carbon capture storage, aviation, some large sectors. As you said, nuclear, hydrogen, renewables themselves, major cost issues, major project costs. Actually using less energy, making energy efficiency the first fuel, or using it more effectively doesn't seem to be particularly high up everyone's agenda. And I'm also going to promote a little event we're running on Friday, which is around an energy efficiency manifesto for COP. But I just wanted to sort of say to you, I think you've really highlighted just how disruptive things can be. I get a little frustrated the government tends to not necessarily seem to be able to join up the dots in terms of, they love the technology, they think technology, I'm pretty certain that the technology, they think the technology is going to solve everyone's problems, as indeed the transport strategy came out this week, which obviously highlighted that actually everyone in theory can carry on flying without any limits, because there will be a magical fuel that will provide that all of a sudden every aeroplane can fly without any carbon impact at all, which I think, who knows where that is actually going to happen. But look, Miguel, I could carry on having a debate with you for a long time. I can't see anyone else has put any questions in the chat. I think it's a fascinating subject. I think it's a fantastic presentation, and
Thank you very much.
Thanks for that. You're our first event this week where it's not been in the UK, and enjoy the rest of your time in Austria. So thank you very much for taking the time. And I'd like to say thank you to everyone who's taken part today. Thank you for taking the time out. Just quickly to reiterate that if any of your colleagues, if you want to pass on the information about the event, it's going to be on demand on the Net Zero Week website, netzeroweek.com. As soon as this event finishes and I can get the link uploaded, then that will be available. So yeah, everyone, thank you very much. Hopefully you'll see you at perhaps one or two of our remaining events this week. And Miguel, look forward to seeing you again soon, and stay safe. Thank you everyone for your time today.
Everybody, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a nice event.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. Bye now.